at the end of the day, we actually built a product that was tested on a little bit over 1,000 patients suffering from major depressive disorder. And the results were super exciting and promising. And we actually found a startup based on those results.
And building the games based on those mechanics, based on those findings, because what are the mechanics that make us happy? That's an interesting question.
Basically, I think overall, when you think about games and, for example, therapy, psychotherapy or whatnot, people usually think about like it's some kind of a chat that you interact with gamified elements. But whereas we're actually game-based, it's front to end, a full-fledged video game.
Okay.
And basically the mechanisms of action that we use, it's usually, if we're, for example, talking about depression, it's usually people tend to think about the mood symptoms. So the rumination, the negative thoughts, the negative bias that usually depression has. But actually the core underlying problem is neurocognitive impairment. So the lack of attention, the lack of problem solving, lack in working memory and so on. And those actually sound like things that are usually tackled with game mechanics anyway.
Absolutely.
So the whole emphasis is built around that we actually start training those through a video game. And we actually measure almost on a millisecond scale what happens, what interactions the patient or the player does. And we start adapting those values. So at the end of the day, the brain is a muscle, so it can be trained. And once we train that, we actually see a direct impact to the mood symptoms as well.
When you think of everything we read about, the stereotypical gamer is some isolated guy in his basement, how can that be not depressing, right? And you think you're creating more isolated people in sort of their own world. Exactly true. That flies in the face of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like when we started with the academic project, it was already the 4th iteration of it. So we didn't have a chance to change that much. And it was actually a first-person action game running on PC that we did the clinical trials on. And out of the 1,000+ patients, 2/3 were female. So I was kind of skeptic about especially retention, like an action game on PC and a female audience. But actually we had a great retention. We had like 30% after 8 weeks. And they played it for 46 hours on average. So that's a lot of game time.